Here's my first report on the progress of the research that I've been doing about compatibility astrology in the effort to this year make a vastly improved compatibility report available to you. So the first thing I want to do is explain to you the basic foundation for the compatibility analysis. This will be the basic foundation that we'll be refining and improving on as a result of the research. So the basic foundation is based on the zodiac and its elements: earth, water, fire, air. The basic idea is that water and earth are compatible. It just makes sense, right? You put water and earth together and you get plants. And also fire and air are compatible. Fire and air, they let each other burn. But water and fire, or earth and fire, or earth and air are less compatible. For example, if your sun is in a fire sign and my sun is in a fire sign, we're pretty compatible. If your sun is in a air sign and my sun is in an air sign, we're pretty compatible. If your moon is in a water sign and my moon is in a earth sign, we're pretty compatible. If your moon is in an earth sign and my moon is in a fire sign, we're not. So it seems very simplistic to say, well, if your sun is Sagittarius and my sun is Aries, we'll be very compatible with each other. But this is just the basic building block. So what we're going to do is we're going to consider the signs element for the sun, and also the moon, and also the ascendant. And also, since we're talking about partnerships of a romantic and long-term nature, we'll talk about Venus. And then it'll be cumulative. Like, well, maybe you have Venus in Pisces and I have Venus in Virgo, but maybe you have the sun in Cancer and I have the sun in Leo. So on one point we're real compatible, but on another point we're not compatible. So here's where it becomes more sophisticated, where you can tell that this particular couple will be compatible in this area with Venus things that Venus represents, but not in that area, things that the sun represents. Right? And also, let me just introduce one more point about how to use this system. The degrees have to be considered. So, for example, we'll go back to the simple analogy, like, hey, I have the sun in Leo, baby, what's your sun sign? And she says, hey, I have the sun in Sagittarius. And then they both go, wow, I guess we're going to get along great. Because yours is a fire sign and mine's a fire sign. That's perfectly valid, but it makes a difference whether the sun, what degree in the sign the sun is at, or any planet, the moon, right? Let's say my sun is in Leo at an early degree, like 1 or 2 degrees in Leo, and your sun is in Leo also, but at a super late degree, like 28 or 29 degrees. Is it the same as if your sun was at 28 and my sun was also at 28? It's not the same. Maybe your Venus is in Pisces and my Venus is in Virgo, but maybe your Venus is at the end of Pisces and my Venus is at the beginning of Virgo. They miss their alignment even though they're in the signs which are compatible with each other. So we're going to calculate that too. And the way that we calculate it is a simple ratio between 1 to 30 degrees. How close together are the 2 points? And what do we do with that information? We're going to weight the importance of the factor based on how close the alignment is. Okay, so let's say the example is you have moon in Gemini, I have moon in Gemini. So okay, great, we should get along good. Now, how important is that we both have the moon in Gemini? It's less important if your moon and my moon are way out of alignment in terms of having a lot of degrees between them. But it's super important if they're really close in alignment in degrees, okay? So when we have these 4 principles of ascendant, moon, sun, and Venus, we will weight the importance of each individual category based on how exact the alignment is. All right, that's the theory. So let's see. Let's see how it works. So there you go. Here's the first couple in the sample. This is an example of a good relationship that has been a good relationship for 21 years. Okay. And you can see how the 4 categories have been analyzed. The ascendant is coming up with 100% compatibility. Why? Because the boy's ascendant is in Capricorn and the girl's ascendant is in Cancer. So that's earth and water. And there's some technical detail here about the opposite sign is 100% compatibility because of the magnetism of it. The opposite sign has the thing that the other sign lacks. And so they pull together passionately. The same sign is very same, so it's supportive, but it's not as passionate. And then the trine signs are also going to be of similar compatible elements, but they're going to be less compelling and more supportive. And then the semi-trine signs are going to be still a little bit more quiet, but still compatible. But look over there, look carefully at the screen. It says the weight is 0.54. It's not 100% weighting because the boy's ascendant is late Capricorn and the girl's ascendant is kind of mid Cancer. So they're not perfectly aligned. And then you can see also they have a great Venus compatibility because they both have Venus in Virgo. But again, the weighting on this of how important this is overall is 0.57 because the woman's Venus is early Virgo and the male's Venus is kind of the 2/3 mark of Virgo. And then the moon is similar weighting. It's not really an alignment. And we have a 60% here. So why do we have a 60%? This is an example of a semi-trine. So the boy has a Gemini moon, which is air, and the girl has an Aries moon, which is fire. So air and fire get along. But it's the semi-trine, so it's a quiet kind of getting along. So it's like a 60% compatibility. 50% means normative. Lower than 50% means less than norm, and greater than 50% means better than norm. Now, look at the sun. So the boy's sun is Leo. The inner circle is the boy on this particular one, and the outer circle is the girl. The boy's is Leo, and the girl's is Virgo. So there is an incompatibility between elements. It's fire and earth. And the particular kind of incompatibility is the 12th house, which isn't so bad. It's more like a weaker incompatibility. But you see the weighting here is very strong. The weighting on the sun incompatibility is 0.92. So it's the strongest weight. Why? Because they're both early in the degree of their sign. See? So then what you do is you average the 4 categories together using the weights. So that you get the overall score, which is 69% compatibility, which is actually very good. If I say 50% is normative, like this is a normal relationship with its normal ups and downs, and it's half good and half bad all the time. It's 50%. So this is 69% good. And sure enough, the actual fact shows that this is a relationship that's been, and it's ongoing. The ... means it's ongoing. And it's still going on, and it's been going on for 21 years, and the couple reports it being good. Okay, so what we want to see is, does this work on a large sample of charts? Obviously, this works on a small sample on this one chart. Does it work on a larger sample? Let's check that out. And what exactly are we checking out? The bottom line is, on the couples who are, let's say, long-term, is the compatibility score above 50? Because we would expect that the compatibility score above 50 would mean these people would stay together. And if the couples report a short-term relationship, then the compatibility score should be below 50. Okay, that's what we're looking for. Compatibility score above 50 should mean long-term relationship. Compatibility score below 50 should mean short-term relationship. So what we actually found was, using our sample of 24 charts, 24 couples, we got 83% accuracy with this. So that's very good. We got 4 exceptions total, and exactly 1 exception per group. So if you remember from where I was asking you to submit data to be included in the research. There were four groups. One group is good relationship long-term, good relationship short-term. Second group, a bad relationship long-term. Third group, bad relationship short-term. Fourth group. So this method got accurate results in every category except for one in each of those categories, which is interesting. So let's go through and look at them. I'll show you. This one is the first one. You've already seen it. It's over 50 and it is a good relationship for 21 years. This one is over 50 slightly, and it's been a good relationship for 50 years. But look, I have 2 question marks after good because there's iffiness involved in whether or not it's exactly good or bad. And so that might also be very easy to see because you can see there's very low compatibility on 2 of these points, Sun and Venus in this case. Third couple, 58% compatibility together for 6 years ongoing. So that's a match. This one, 46%, pretty close. This one is the one. This one, why? Why was it overall 32% compatibility, yet it's been a good relationship for 12 years? This is one that we're going to have to improve our basic theory using this particular chart. Couple number 15 is going to be instrumental in improving our thing, but actually all these other couples too, because when you improve the thing to make 15 work better, you have to make sure that it doesn't make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 work worse. Okay, so here's another couple been together for 8 years ongoing, and it matches the score of 51% or more. Here's another couple, 6 years, basically 50%, pretty close enough. 45%, 28 years, again, it's kind of close enough. But maybe we can get it better. 47 for 9 years. This one is another exception here. So here's another one, number 24, which is really going to help us improve. This one is good, but short term. So this was like a weird relationship and a short-term relationship, and this is very much below 50%. So that's a match. This one was good, but for only 1 year. So this is a not match. We need to look at this one. This will help us also. Number 8 will help us also. So this is not a non-match. Good for less than 1 year. Overall 37%. That's a match. Good for less than 1 year. Overall 21%. That's a match. Bad for 30 years. Here's a good one. Been bad for 30 years and the overall score is above 50, so they actually stayed together. Why is it bad? That's in a future research. Okay, but what we're showing here with these scores is how compatible the people are. That means how much they fit together or stick together or cannot separate. So really, the scores that we're reading so far, the way we're reading the synastry chart so far, isn't showing how good or bad the relationship is, how pleasant or unpleasant it is, but how long it sticks. This one is bad for 23 years. So the overall score is 69% again. So also I suspect that in order to get a bad relationship to stick together for a long time, the score that we're looking at has to be even higher, above 50. To get a good relationship to stick together for a long time, you can go down into the 40s. Bad for more than 10 years, pretty much 50%. This one broke. This is interesting. It's not quite as long as the other ones. This one, there was a divorce, I believe. Right. There was a divorce for this one. So the people actually realized we have to end this. So the overall compatibility wasn't high enough that they just continue and continue and continue. This one, bad for 8 years. This is the exception. Remember I said there's one big exception in each group. The overall score is 30 only. So I wouldn't have expected it to last for this long. But there must be another factor. Go ahead and look at the chart itself. You can already see one person's Venus is exactly over the other person's Rahu, just like in that other exception. So we definitely have our eyes on future developments concerning Rahu and Ketu. Here's one that was bad for 10 years and a very high compatibility score. So that's a match. Also, you see how aligned the Rahu and Ketu is with the moon and ascendant. Here's one that was short-term bad. Bad for 1 year, and overall score is below 50, as it should be. Here's one that is another short-term bad, and with, again, a very low overall score. So that's as it should be. And here's the exception in this group. This one was bad for 2 years, but it had a great overall score. So probably what you will also see is that the individual charts, this is why I have this all set up to look at in the future. The individual charts are going to be very important. Okay, next. This one is bad for only 1 year. It matches. It's a 34% compatibility, so it shouldn't have lasted a long time. And this one also bad, not so bad, maybe bad, badish with a question mark for 2 years. And the overall score is getting closer to 50. So this is another match. All right, so what we have so far is a fundamental system just for predicting the length of the relationship, the durability of the relationship, which is already pretty sturdy and accurate. It's like 80% accuracy on the sample of 24 charts, 24 couples. But we're going to improve on it to make it more accurate. And then we're also going to include interpretation of whether or not this is good or bad on a long term or short term. Not just long term or short term, but also is it pleasant or unpleasant, good or bad. So here's where we're going to go next, what I'm going to be adding next. What I'll be adding next, immediately next, is cross-point calculations. So far in the research that you've seen, there's only been point-to-point consideration. For example, his moon is Gemini, her moon is Pisces, his ascendant is Capricorn, her ascendant is Sagittarius. But what about the fact that her ascendant is Sagittarius, his something is Gemini, his moon is Gemini? That's kind of good. So that's what I mean by cross-point. Not just moon to moon, Venus to Venus, sun to sun, ascendant to ascendant, but ascendant to sun, ascendant to moon, ascendant to Venus, moon to sun, moon to Venus, etc. So that's the thing I will be adding in next. And then coming up after that, I'm going to include aspects and conjunctions between the charts. Like we saw for sure, there was a lot of importance to Rahu conjunctions between the charts, Rahu Ketu conjunctions between the charts. That'll be step 2 in the future. Then I'll give you a report on that. And then we'll see how to work in considerations of individual factors in individual charts. And then possibly I will also do nakshatra-based compatibility factors as a 4th and final step. So look forward to that to the future. Subscribe to the channel to make sure you don't miss it, and keep up with all my stuff all the time. Don't miss a beat. Thank you so much.